Holy crap, listening to listen to that buzzing. So I'm going to turn my phone off while I walk by this. I don't want to get zapped and sterilized or something. So it's day 42. Took a 0 in Marion yesterday. I had to change my shoes again. So I've just come to this old one-room school. Lindamood School, 1894. So let's go in and see. Apparently there's trail magic in here. Gotta see that. It's like something from Little House on the Prairie. Cool. Okay. Things for dogs. Very good. Litter bags. And various things. Snacks, chips. Fresh fruit. Oh my god, yes. So I'm gonna just sit in this classroom for a while. The old boiler going into the roof. Old Abe on the wall there. Welcome to the 1894 Lindamood one-room school, built in 1894. One teacher taught grades 1st to 7th. School started in October, ended in March. Usually there were 18 to 25 students. Teachers were paid $30 per month. This school closed in 1937. Have a great day. God bless. Stars and stripes. A little bit of artwork. Cool. Very traditional. Let's see what this is. Rules for teachers. I'll photo this. Hey folks. So yes, it is day 42. I'm kind of well into my day. I'm about 8 or 9 miles in. So the new shoes I bought in Damascus, the Solomons, turned out to be a bit of a disaster. They felt lovely and comfortable in the shoe shop, in the outfitter store. I spent a while choosing them, and then about halfway through the first day they started to hurt, and I thought, oh no. So I had to go 3 days to get to Marion, Virginia. And by that time I'd kicked up the first blisters of my whole trip, which was a nuisance. My little toes felt like, you know, I'd have happily had them amputated. They were so painful. So I decided I need to sort that out. Really wasn't the plan. I didn't want to have to take another 0. That's my 4th 0 in 41 days. It's not bad, I suppose, but I had to get a lift. Basically a trail angel called Ram Bunny, an elderly lady who hiked the AT 3 times, gave me a lift because there's no outfitter store in Marion. She gave me a lift all the way back to Damascus, which by road was only 21 miles, which is like, it took me 3 days to hike through the hills to get between those towns, 3 big days. And by road it was only 21. So anyway, we did that. She waited for me. I got my Ultras. So got the big wide funny foot things, but they are incredibly comfortable. That was kind of what I meant to buy to start with. It's the thicker soled versions of what I started the hike with. And they had this really wide toe box, which feels fantastic on my little toes, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. So unfortunately I now have a 5-day-old pair of Solomons sitting in the end of my rucksack, which is why it's a little bit higher today. They're right down the bottom. So I'll let Emily take those home. I'll use them for something else when I get home, when my feet return to their normal size. So there you go. Okay, so a couple of questions. Una, hope you're doing well. It's lovely to hear from you. So you were asking me about trekking poles. So your question, I think, was just, you know, do I use them much? I would say, and I'm probably typical, I probably use them 90% of the time. On really flat ground like I'm on now, it's better not to use them and walk a little more naturally. It's less energy sapping. Bear with me one moment. But the poles are invaluable when it comes to going uphill, if the surfaces are slippy or uneven, going downhill where you take your hands out of the little ribbons in case you need to let go, if you need to fall and, you know, reach out to grab something. So it's just like, it's almost like giving yourself four-wheel drive. Very, very important. Some people just use them literally all the time. So they're even walking along the streets and you just hear them clicking away. That's kind of wrong. You shouldn't really do that. You should, when you can walk naturally and safely, you should do that. So that's that one. Another question from Mark about who maintains the trail. And if we see something like a big tree down, which this year is being called the year of the blowdown, as they call them. There's loads of trees down on the trail. We're doing a lot of climbing over trails, or over trees and under trees and around trees and whatever. So who maintains the trail? So overall, there's an organization called the ATC, that's Appalachian Trail Conservancy, I think they're called. And they have overall control. But all the local hiking groups adopt a section, so the section obviously that's close to them. And the hikers themselves will go out periodically, clip branches, you know, clear weeds, and just generally look after the place. So it's locally by the hiker groups, and then sort of nationally by the ATC, and they do a fantastic job. You do see a variation in quality, but you know, it's splitting hairs. So they're very, very good. So what else? Oh yeah. So one person, I won't name him, Roy, drew a comparison. When you look at my little stats page at the end of my YouTube videos, you'll see the feet climbed on the AT. So that's provided in the Good Hooks app. So it adds up all the ups on each section and shows you how far you've actually climbed upwards. So Roy has sort of likened that to climbing Mount Everest, and if you look at that, Mount Everest is 29,000 feet, it just pips 29,000 feet. You can't compare those two things. Mount Everest, completely different proposition, and in fact people who do climb Mount Everest, they actually go up and down it quite a few times, laying cables and ropes and putting ladders across crevasses and doing all kinds of things. So they do, you know, they probably climb more like 60,000 feet. But it's a different kettle of fish at low, you know, when you've 7% oxygen instead of 20 and what have you. It's a different game. And obviously a much tougher game. This is a different proposition. This is for mere mortals like me. And I think people who climb Everest are like superhuman, so I couldn't even aspire, I couldn't even dream of that kind of thing. Maybe 30 years ago, but certainly not now. But I think a slightly unfortunate comparison. But thanks for contributing anyway, Roy. So, anything else? Not really. I stayed in a crappy little motel last night, the night before, the Econo Lodge. Didn't realise that there's one of those railway lines right behind the motel, and my room was at the back. And of course these freight trains, there seemed to be about 6 of them, and 3 or 4 of them go by between 10 p.m. and sort of midnight, and my god are they loud. And then at about 5:30 this morning, 2 of them go by, And that seemed to be consistent over the 2 nights and 2 mornings. So that was a bloody nuisance. So didn't sleep that well. So there you go. Okay, might catch you later. I'm doing, I don't know, I think it's 15-ish today. I don't need to go mad now. There is a slightly better plan in play now because of the 0 yesterday. So I'll talk about that again. All right, catch you later. Guess what, folks? Mile 548, quarter way. 6 weeks on the trail, day 42, and I'm only a quarter of the way. This brings up an interesting point. So, I can't remember whether I've mentioned it, but one of the reasons I'm doing this is because of a book called A Walk in the Woods, written by Bill Bryson. It's a fantastic book, strongly recommend it. But Bill, as it happened, Bill and his friend Stephen Katz didn't complete the AT. They walked and walked and walked and walked, and one day they got sight of a big map of the AT. I can't remember what kind of a building it was in, but they saw this big, tall, vertical map of the whole AT. And then they looked to see where they were on that map. And when they realized how insignificant a fraction they had done, they realized they were just never going to get it done. So they stopped. So his friend Stephen Katz basically went home, and Bill Bryson continued to section hike some of the key, you know, historical or interesting places along the way, and continued up north that way. But he didn't complete the AT. So I've been aware of that, obviously, for some time, because I read the book a long time ago. But there's an interesting sort of psychological danger in looking at things like little fractions, like a quarter, and thinking, God, I've been on the trail for 6 weeks. It's been 6 weeks, and I'm only a quarter of the way there. You know, it's like, oh my God, that's kind of frightening. So I've been trying not to think about that too much. And funny enough, when I was back in Hot Springs, I went into the outfitter's store for a couple of bits and bobs, and I used their toilet. And right beside their toilet in there was one of those maps. And as soon as, you can't help but kind of see it because you're in there using the loo. And I glanced at where Hot Springs was on it, and I immediately looked away, and I decided whenever I see those maps, and I'm sure I'm going to see them in quite a few places, I'm going to make a point of really not looking at them. So if they get into my field of vision, I'm going to turn my head away, because it's hard enough without, you know, thinking how little you've done. So there you go. Catch you later. Good morning, Ireland. It is the 6th of May, Monday, I think. It is day 44. This is Chestnut Knob Shelter, where I stayed last night. First fully enclosed shelter I've been at. And here is the view. Dun, dun, dun. Not bad, eh? So, gonna have an easy day today. Catch you later. So just waking up on a beautiful morning after 2 wet days. Yesterday it was raining from pretty much from start to finish. I managed to leave my bloody Garmin unit at a hostel. I put it outside to get a weather forecast, and then came inside, and myself and a couple of others were debating whether we were going to wait for the rain to stop. Glad we didn't, because it didn't stop. or just get going, and we very suddenly just went, oh sod it, let's just get going. Put our packs on and our wet gear, and of course I walked off without my bloody Garmin unit. So thankfully the caretaker there is posting it on to the hotel in Petersburg, where I'm seeing Emily, so that's good. The previous day it started like this. It was a beautiful morning. My plan was to do, I don't know, 15 or 16 miles to a campsite, but when I got there, by that time it was absolutely pelting down with rain. The campsite just looked really miserable, and I just didn't fancy pitching my tent in the rain, knowing it was going to rain all night, and it was going to be raining in the morning when I was packing up, which is the bit I particularly don't like. So I thought, sod it, I'll keep going. So I went to 21, 22 miles, and there was a hostel there called the Quarterway Inn or something, because it's at approximately a quarter of the way. Yeah, that was the day that I passed that quarter mark thing on the ground, but that was at 5:48. But the actual hostel is at 5:55, so it's a little bit further on. But it was a good hostel. It was a big house, big comfortable house, really nice. They laid on a really nice breakfast for us, so that was good. But we did get a bit of a soaking. So this morning, I've now basically resigned myself to 3 fairly easy days. I'm not going to get to Petersburg. I'm pretty sure that plan isn't going to change now. So I've got an easy day to a next shelter. It's only 10 or 11 miles, so I'll take my time. Tomorrow, probably continue to Bland or to a hostel of some sort. And I still then have a day to play with, because Emily's going to collect me in Bland. So what I'm hoping to do is use a slack packing service that's at that hostel. I believe there's a guy there that does it, so he can kind of project me forward at least 20 miles, and then I'll slack pack back to that hostel. So at least that way, when I'm with Emily, I'm only kind of maybe 20 miles off my original plan, which is no big deal. So I can either, depending on how we fill our day, but I can either get Emily to slack pack me, 2 sort of easy days, 2 10-mile days or something, and get those 20 miles done, or I can sort of forget about it and make up those days over the 19 hiking days that I have between Emily's visit and Roy's visit. So I've still got those little choices to make. I'm cool with either one of those. Neither one is particularly difficult. So it's true what they say, you shouldn't have plans when you step onto the AT, you should just wing it. You don't know what the weather's going to do, you don't know how you're going to feel. The weather hasn't exactly helped me. I've had some lovely weather, but I've had some bloody awful weather as well. I've hiked through so many lightning storms, which I shouldn't have done. I've had lightning storms cut my day short. I've had 4 zeros, which wasn't really the plan either. I should really only have had 2, maybe a third one by now. I haven't really had many Neros, so I'm kind of in credit on that one. So I do seem to remember having 1 7-mile day, and I think I've had 1 or 2 8s. So that's probably the closest I've come to having Neros. But overall, there's no complaints, there's no panic. Yeah, I'll catch you later. Nice bouncy bridge. This is rather nice. It is May 8th. That makes it day 46. Just starting the Sobo slackpack. Doing 20 miles back to Brushy Mountain something or other. Then I walk down to Bland, which is 4 or 5 miles. Hopefully I can hitch a lift like I did yesterday. And then Emily should be waiting for me, which would be cool. Catch you later. So I've just seen a coyote just scarpered about 20 feet ahead of me. I'd love to see it again and get it on film. I don't think they're dangerous. It's probably watching me because it didn't run very far. Come on, dog, move. Apparently not. Oi, oi, oi. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to turn this camera off and it'll run by me or something. Oh well. Woody woodpecker. Typical morning sounds. Catch you later. There's a cool view above the clouds. You see the ridge line in the distance. Pity about the power cables. There's just a sea of cloud below us there. Kind of cool. Like cotton wool. So you might have noticed I've been trying to capture any different flower that I've been seeing. But this looks completely freaky. Oh, it is artificial. Oh dear. It's completely artificial. I was getting all excited. How ridiculous. Oh well. Kind of looks good there. Little courtship going on here. Leave them to it. There's snake number 2. I almost stood on it. Looks kind of angry. Been kind of hissing at me. I'll leave him alone. This is a funny forest. I don't know whether I like the scenery here. I'm going up that way. And my day is done.